she started school, she started telling about the queer things that were happening at home. You know, she thought it was natural, she didn't know the difference. And the people then picked up on it, what's going on. For anyway, they were losing stuff, they put clothes out on the clothesline and be gone. You know, stuff like that. Perhaps they'd lose a pot or a pan, they'd find them over in an old stone rock pile, you know, stone pile of stones. And everything like that was disappearing. Of course, they weren't telling anybody. The young one got out and this news got out. Then finally I noticed in 1921.
21?
Yeah. Anyway, it was in January, the awful snowstorm ever was. And they lived up, you know where they lived up in the woods there, yeah. It was McGilvery's. They lived in the other road, but they were neighbours, but there's woods between them. For my father's sister was married to this Ronald McGilvery. Of course, at that time she was dead, and so was Raoul. But the two boys were home, the Leo and Dan. Their sister had died too with the flu. The flu in 1918, an awful lot died. She was my first cousin, she died, only in the teens. And anyway, this night, who come over, the old fellow come over to Dan McGilchrist and Leo and told them that the house on fire. So Leo dropped everything and he went over with the old man. And Dan had to wait to the fire school home, you know, and shut things up. So on the way over, halfway to the house, they found the old lady stuck in a snowbank. She left the house burning, and she stuck over from McGillis, and she couldn't. She got stuck in the snow. The snow was deep. So that was all right. They went to the house. It wasn't burned. Nothing wrong. Then after a while, Dad went over when he was ready. No, the fires just spring out of the wall here and there. Perhaps I need a cover like that there to see smoke coming out. That's a fact.
Yes.
But it's awful hard. I find it doubtful myself why I didn't know it was true. It's hard to believe. And the chair, the rocket chair, now that they had cushion on the rocket chair in them times, so an old cushion. The old cushion go fire. The look of the blind, that time, you know, the blinds on the windows, the look of the blind was for fire. And they'd go and put the fire out with their hands and it wouldn't burn them. So that went on and on and on and on and on. Every night they went home. Then finally they had to leave the house. They moved out to the road, out to the McCarthy's used to live out at the berry field there. And then the Peachy Carl, or Peter Peachy Carl, he was a detective from Truro. His name is Peter Carl. He went by the name of Peachy. And there was a spiritualist from New York, Dr. Prince. He was a spiritualist, you know, he talked to the dead and all that. Right in the middle of the storms and everything, they landed. They landed one day, one night. And they brought a load of grub with them, enough to feed an army, you know. And they all had these big fur coats and buffalo robes and of the hats. You think there were, well, one of them, and there was three of them. There was Peachy, and the spiritualist, and poor old Carl Whidden. He'd be old Albert's brother. He was a correspondent or something, reporter for the Halifax Herald. The house was horrible. They had a little porch on, but not so big as this. That's where the stove was. And the rest of the house, there was no heat in it. The big part. You know how hard it would be in the winter time.
Yes.
There weren't even a stove. So they all got these buffalo robes, and they had these big fur coats, and they put a good fire in the kitchen stove. And they had oh yes, that very night I was at Dan at McGilvery's. His wife was sick that time. She died really afterwards. She had the consumption they had then, you know. And who come over from tiptoeing across the fields? This man, all dressed up. He wasn't very big. He was kind of short. He came in. Who was with Harold Whitten? And he came in. Of course, I knew him to see him, but I wasn't knew him personally like I would today, you know. And he came in. He had a big bottle that long, pouring some oil. There's no oil in the lamps, so they had lamps but no oil. So I remember he had filled the old oil bottle and given to Harold Whitten. He struck back to oh God, it was cold. That night anyway, they got a fire on. They had a little lamp lighting. I guess perhaps two of them lighting. And anyway, they were all laying on the floor in the kitchen side by side. They had rugs under them. And one fella, they were all sound asleep there. One fella, someone hit one of them. So he fed up like that. He said, "What's wrong?" And he looked at the other two, and they were dead to the world. on the point of sleeping. Someone like that came, he heard him coming, just grabbed him. I think just a Harley Quinn he grabbed. So they all sprung to their feet. Well, anyway, whatever got so bad that night, they all had to leave the house, the big brave ones. And anyway, they went back. The next day, then the old fellow came back in again. He used to go, he still had his cattle up in the barn to feed, you know. He used to travel in and out every day. He'd go to the barn in the morning. The cows would be all loosened, and the horse's tail would be all braided up. And he used to tie the cows in the stalls, stanches, and they called them, you know, put the hay in. And
oh yes, I've seen them.
He used to have big ropes and tie it around the stanch like that it couldn't slip by. In the morning, the cattle would be all loose. What was working. And then their daughter, they had a daughter, Mary. Well, this Mary Ellen was with them. She was only a little kid then, but 13 or 12 or 13. They had a daughter, Mary, the real daughter, really Spook. She was married to Will Quirk down all the river Rome Valley there. So anyway, the old people that winter first, Mary and her husband up to stay with the old people, because poor old Will didn't know anything about ghosts or spooks or more than anyone else. For he was old, the people were old. For he used to make have the nice dry kilns for the morning. He was an awful clean, neat man and so forth. He'd get up in the morning, his kilns would be all over the place, and the ash would be all over the kitchen floor. He didn't know what to make of the whole thing.
No idea how it happened.
No. Those spooks, they had to leave there.
Was Grandpa, Jack Kenny, was he a fireman? A volunteer? Did he go down there at one time?
Yeah, he and Mike McGibb, the morning after the fire, the word came on the phones. We had a phone. Yeah. One of the lucky ones in Caledonia.
What year was this?
Well, I mean, he had a phone their place in Caledonia. And the phone come over the phone that the old spook had. This Mr. McDonald's house burnt last night. You know, that's the word that came to us, burning. So he and Mike McGill struck out there to see what they could do for the people. When they come inside of the house was standing, same as ever. As they were getting handy the house, there was a big hand going back and forth in the wind, waving a white cloth at them. And of course they didn't talk to somebody. They didn't put any pass on. They went in. Whatever people were there, they're all in this little kitchen. There's nobody. This is in the main house. But that's all. I had the spook book here. The really spook book. I grew up. Did you ever see it?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Well, I had it here, but the sister was here one day. A sister. And I said, she lives at St. Andrews, at the convent. I didn't think there's anything there. Oh, she said, yes. I said, that's my old church, St. Andrews. Oh, she said, you know about the spooks? I said, yes. I said, start talking. I said, I had the book. She took the book and she never brought it back. And 2 or 3 times